Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we talk about selection and use of supplementary materials. This is our 8th lecture and unit number 8. So what are actually these supplementary materials? Well, these are books and other materials we can use in addition to our course books. So they may include such like kind of materials as worksheets, newspapers, magazines, websites, videos, audios, realia, like some real objects that you may bring to your class. And well, you don't have to limit yourself to only these things. And well, what kind of spheres they cover? Let's say they may deal with skills, they may deal with grammar, vocabulary, phonology, any sort of communicative activities, and they can provide you with some more teacher resources, including some guidelines and explanations on how to deliver certain things when teaching. And of course, these could be some sort of authentic materials. For example, those could be authentic magazines or newspapers that you bring from your travels into the classroom, right? Some course books packages include supplementary materials and activities specially designed to fit the course book syllabus. Well, and there are also many websites where you can download supplementary materials. Well, we select supplementary materials and activities first by recognizing that we need something more or maybe something different from the material in the course book. And then, well, by knowing where to find the most appropriate kinds of material. Okay, so why might you want to use these materials, and what might be the pluses and the minuses of using them, right? So these are the two questions that I want you to answer. I'm going to show you a number of like supplementary materials, and I would like you to comment openly on each and every material that you will see, the kind of material that you will see. Well, for example, the first is going to be a class library of graded readers. Imagine that in your school or in your classroom, you have got a number of books which are actually graded readers. Graded readers are storybooks that use, simple language or graded language suitable for your students' level of English. Why might you want to use this? And what may be the pluses and minuses of using these materials? Please leave me your answer here in a commentary or in a voice message here. And don't be afraid to sound obvious, because I'm not looking for some unique answers. Very simple, primitive, but like pragmatic answers absolutely will do. Okay, please. Okay, now another type, skills practice books, the books that deal with speaking, listening, reading, writing skills. It may be a collection of short stories to read with comprehension questions, or it might be a number of listening activities with an audio attached. So again, why might you want to use this, and what could be the pluses and minuses of using this in class? Thank you. Teachers' resource books. Same questions. Thank you. What about websites? Thank you. Now, videos, using videos in your class. Thank you. Language practice books, grammar, vocabulary, phonology, not skills, but language. Thank you. Electronic materials, let's say applications like, Kahoot, Quizlet. Thank you. games. These might include board games, computer games, I don't know, Roblox, Minecraft, whatever. Okay, thank you very much. So now let's talk about this in detail. So first, a few basic reasons that you might want to use supplementary materials. Well, first of all, just to replace the unsuitable materials in the course book. If there is some part in the course book you don't like, you may want to substitute this part with an extra material, an outside material. You have gaps in the course book. Maybe you feel that your course book doesn't provide you with enough material, so that's why you might resort to some extra things. To provide suitable material for learners' needs and interests. So the content of your book might not be that interesting or suitable for your learners, so that's why you might look for something else. To give learners extra language and skill practice. If you feel that there is not enough drill, or if there is not enough like communication and reading practice in your course book, this is where the supplementary materials will come up. And just to add variety to our teaching, it might mean variety for your learners, but as well variety for yourself, so that you jump out of a routine, so to say, and try to use something different, differently organized and differently presented, just to add to your own teaching experience. Okay, well, but there is one thing here, course books, they are organized according to a syllabus, right? And they are usually graded. It means that grammatical structures, vocabulary skills, etc., are presented in a helpful sequence for learning, so that learners' knowledge of the language builds up step by step through the book. So supplementary materials and activities can provide variety in lessons, that's true, and some useful extra practice, but it is important to make sure that they fit into the learner's program, right? And that they are suitable for class and match the aims for particular lessons. So it means that all these features, like belonging to some syllables or fitting in some syllables, and the fact that it's graded and some certain sequence of delivery, it all should also amount to your supplementary materials. So they should be fitting in the syllables, they should be graded to the language level of your learners, and they should be given in a certain sequence that provides students with best outcomes, so to say. Okay, so and here we are going to talk in detail some possible advantages and disadvantages of different kinds of supplementary materials. These are the same materials we discussed, well, you told me about. Now this is what I can see, this is what I can get from my TKT book for you. So possible advantages and disadvantages. So the pluses would be for a class library of graded readers. The pluses would be like they encourage extensive reading, and it gives learners more confidence in reading. Sometimes the language might be too simple because they're graded, and this means that it may not be that challenging for your students. Okay, skills practice books. Well, they focus on individual skills, and that is a plus. A minus, that it may not fit the course book. That's why you will have to adapt it, or maybe spend time looking for something suitable. Teachers' resource books. Well, they just give you new ideas for lessons. But again, make sure they suit your lesson aims, right? So they might be not that fitting. Websites. Well, they provide you with a variety of lesson plans and teaching materials and other resources, a very good source of for variety, so to say. But sometimes because of that variety, it's difficult to find the right material for the learners. And it's typically, it might be time consuming, and it might require some sort of knowing how to look for things. Videos. Well, they provide good visual context. They might be the source of cultural information, a unique source of cultural information for your students, and it shows body language, which is not available anywhere else. The equipment for the video might not always be available, although now, you know, if your students have a mobile telephone and you have a laptop or a cell phone, it's not a problem. And sometimes, and very often, the language may not be that graded, especially if they are authentic videos. Okay, language practice books. So they give you just extra practice, which is nice, and the learners can work alone and can get some sort of, you know, independence without teachers' help. And they typically have repetitive exercises, and usually this practice is out of the context, which is not really nice. Okay, electronic materials. They are typically a motivational factor. Students like electronic things, and it is usually familiar to learners. So this technology is usually familiar to learners. This is what they do at home, but sometimes it's difficult to control your students when they are using electronic materials. You have to find ways to do that, so to say. And typically there is little or no human feedback in such activities, in such materials. Like you wouldn't get the same feedback as you get from like a real class communication or doing more classic types of materials. Okay, and the final category is games. So of course, that is just enjoyment. They have fun, and that is good language practice if your students communicate in English or throughout the game. It may not be suitable for older learners, although I would doubt that. I discovered that like adults like playing games as well as young ones, so probably this is not a valid point here, but okay, who knows. So, alrighty, now we are going to talk about how you can choose the materials. Well, first of all, the question is what is available, right? And we talked a little bit about choosing a good course book material for your students in the previous lecture. So you can just use some of the questions that I gave you in the previous lecture to help you find supplementary materials as well, right? So these are the questions that you would be asking yourself when you are looking for the materials that you have, okay? So next, then, how will you will have to think of how the materials will replace or improve the course book material, right? That's a good idea, just to try using authentic materials, which is not designed for a particular level, in order to give learners the experience of working with more challenging texts and tasks. The activities and materials designed to develop individual skills often include the use of other skills. For example, learners need to read a text before they carry out a listening task, or to do some writing as a follow-up activity after a speaking activity. So when selecting materials and activities, think carefully about all the skills that are required. For example, you're looking for some listening material and you find a material, but it might include also the some elements of reading or some elements of writing or some sort of vocabulary that might be not familiar to your students. So always consider this, that you are almost never practicing a single skill. And that's why you have to check for what other skills your material incorporates. Okay. Many publishers produce materials for practicing separate language skills at different levels. Teachers' resource books too usually list tasks and activities according to level. So before deciding to use these materials, however, you should check how appropriate the level is for your learners. Think about the language they will need to understand or to produce. Okay, and one more question is just how do you use the materials that you have selected? Well, learners get used to the methodology in their course book. If you are using supplementary materials with very different procedures, you may need to give special attention to instructions, right? If it's a new kind of activity, please instruct carefully. Make sure your students understand how it works. You can adapt many supplementary materials for use with classes at different levels. The texts used in these materials may not be graded, but you can grade the activities by making the learner's tasks more or less challenging. So if it's an authentic video or if it's an authentic text, and you realize that your students would not be able to understand it completely, well, they don't actually have to. It depends on what sort of task you give to them. For example, if that is a listening where people just talk about some, for example, food recipes, and then you can ask your students just to listen and to enumerate different ingredients that they can hear in these recipes, and ignore all the other like procedures and so on and so forth. So it depends on what task you attach to the material rather than the content of the material itself. Games and extra communicative activities can provide variety and make learning fun, but you need to think about your reasons for using them, so that your lesson still has a clear purpose. Well, all the learners may even want to know why they are doing these activities. Well, okay, I guess it's time to practice now. Well, here we have a set of instructions for the kinds of activities you might find in a book or in the book of supplementary materials. So for each one, you will need to decide which level it is suitable for. What are the aims of these activities? What materials, if any, the teacher needs to prepare, and if it focuses on some particular language, right? So these 4 questions you will have to answer for each activity that you will see. Well, the first one is this. In pairs, compare your list of ideas for staying healthy, then agree on the 6 most useful ideas. Next, get together with another pair and decide on a group list of the 6 best ideas. Put these ideas in order according to their usefulness. Okay, please answer these questions openly here in a voice message or in a text. Thank you. Next, describe the picture to your partner so that he or she can draw it. When you have finished, compare your pictures and discuss the reasons for any differences. Thank you. Send one member of your group outside the classroom to read the next sentence. He or she must remember the sentence without writing it down. Then come back and dictate the sentence to the group. Thank you. Use your dictionary to find as much information as you can about your word. Discuss with other students in your group how the meanings of your words are connected, and then explain the connection to the class. Thank you. Decide which stories are true and which are false. Then choose one to tell to the rest of the class for them to make the same decision. Thank you. Read the definition to the class for them to guess the word. Thank you. Listen to the words on the recording and check whether you have underlined the correct syllables. Thank you. Correct the text so that it matches the information in the picture. Okay, number 9, write the text part of the story on the computer. When you have finished, move to the next computer and continue the story you can see on the screen. Thanks for your reply. And the last one, go to the blackboard and rub out one word in the sentence so that the words that are left on the board still form a correct sentence. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, a little bit of speculation. What do you think? As usual, I quote you the teacher's ideas. You decide how much you agree to them, and give me your reasons. It's important to give your reasons, guys. If you don't give me your reasons, I don't count it as a valid answer, because these are the reasons I'm interested in, not your agreeing or disagreeing, actually. So first, there's more than enough material in my course book. I don't have time to use supplementary materials. Comment here or, well, leave me a voice message. Thank you. My students get bored with the same book in every lesson, so I use supplementary materials as often as I can. Again, leave me your answer. Thank you. I'd like to use supplementary materials more often, but I find it difficult to feed them into my syllabus. Okay, thank you. It was the last one. And the task for those who are already teaching, you can choose between two tasks to do. Keep a recording of the supplementary materials you use during 1 week's teaching. Make notes on the reason for using the material, how it worked, and what changes you would make if you used it again. Or choose 2 or 3 supplementary activities you have used recently. Make notes on the changes you would need to make to use the materials at different levels. So please leave me your text or leave me your voice answer. If you are not teaching currently, just tell me that you are not a teacher and I will skip this activity for you. Okay, guys, here we come up to the final part of our journey today, TKT. Well, we've got some teachers' comments like this one. I've been teaching for a long time, but I really need some fresh ideas for teaching grammar to low-level learners. So that's the problem that the teacher has. Okay, and we will have a number of books, like materials that we could recommend to this teacher. Only one will suit. So let's look at these books. The Internet and the Language Classroom by Gavin Dudney, Cambridge University Press. Developing Listening Skills, Sheila Rickson, Prentice Hall. Sounds Like This by Katie Kitchen, Blair Publications Limited. Simple Speaking Activities, Jill and Charles Hatfield, Oxford University Press. Elementary Language Practice by Michael Vince, Macmillan. Literature in the English Classroom by John Coley and Stephen Slater, Cambridge University Press. And the final, Words in Their Places, Graded Closer Texts and Comprehension Exercises by Lynn Hutchinson and Hodder Arnold. Okay, so you need to choose one book for this guy who's got problems with, who hasn't got any fresh ideas for teaching grammar to low-level learners. And the right answer is E, Elementary Language Practice by Michael Vince. Next problem. I'm not sure how to use websites for teaching English. So what's the best book to recommend? And the right answer is A, The Internet and the Language Classroom. I'm looking for activities to help my teenage elementary learners develop their fluency, but I haven't got time to do a lot of extra preparation. Your advice? D, Simple Speaking Activities. I'm interested in using poems and short stories in my language classroom. Your choice? Literature in the English classroom. I want a book that explains pronunciation and gives me some ideas about how to teach it. Sounds like this. And the final one. My learners need lots of extra tasks for reading practice, but I haven't got time to search for supplementary materials at the right level. Well, that's a difficult choice, guys, isn't it? The right answer is G. Okay, I guess we are done. Thanks for staying with me here and leaving your answers. You had a lot of writing or talking today, but I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in a while. Bye-bye.